The morning sun spilled over the marble floors of the Harrington estate, golden rays gliding across hallways that looked too polished, too perfect, too cold to belong to any ordinary man. But nothing about this day was ordinary, especially not for Rowan Hale, a young single father who had spent the last 3 years piecing his life back together after tragedy tore it apart. He never imagined he would be standing here, inside the mansion of one of the richest, most unreachable men in the city, and he certainly never imagined his world would shatter all over again the moment he saw a single framed portrait hanging on the wall. Because the woman in that portrait, poised, elegant, radiant, was his late wife. If you believe in kindness, fate, and second chances, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Soft Voices. Your support helps us bring more stories like this to life. Rowan's heart thudded heavily in his chest as he stared at the impossible image. Mara Hale, his wife, the woman whose laughter used to fill their tiny apartment, whose hands once held his newborn daughters, whose life had been cut short in a car crash caused by a drunk driver 2 miles from home. He remembered her perfume. He remembered her soft voice. But 3 years later, life had forced him to survive by burying his grief deep so he could show strength for his daughter, little Nessa. And now, here she was, appearing in a gilded frame inside a billionaire's home, immortalized in a portrait he had never seen, dressed in a way he had never seen her dress, staring out with a quiet strength he recognized instantly. The billionaire, Aldrich Harrington, stood silently nearby, watching Rowan with a complex expression, one that was not arrogance nor coldness, but something else, something heavy, almost painful. But Rowan could not see that yet. All he saw was betrayal, confusion, and a wound reopening so violently he could barely breathe. He pressed a trembling hand to the portrait's edge, trying to understand. Mara had worked part-time at a small cafe. She'd never mentioned modeling, art commissions, or knowing anyone from the city's wealthiest circles. Their life back then had been simple, modest, and full of dreams that barely fit within their budget. How could this be real? Rowan had only come to this estate because Aldrich's assistant had contacted him unexpectedly, claiming that Aldrich wished to discuss an opportunity that would benefit his daughter's future. Rowan had assumed it was some charity scholarship, maybe something connected to the daycare Nessa attended. He never expected a portrait of his wife to be the center of it all. The weight of unanswered questions pressed against him until it became hard to stand still. For 3 years, Rowan had carried grief like a silent, invisible burden. He had taken double shifts at the construction site, worn-out boots and frayed jackets becoming symbols of resilience. Every night he collapsed onto his mattress too tired to dream, too tired to remember himself. Nessa was his only light, her bright hazel eyes a reflection of the woman he lost, and he swore to build a future where she would never feel the kind of pain he lived with every day. But the portrait in the mansion now threatened to undo all the progress he had made. Memories he fought so hard to bury rose up with ferocity. Why was his wife here? Why did Aldrich Harrington have her picture? And why had he waited years to tell him? Rowan's mind drifted back to the accident, to the phone call from the hospital, to the way Head held Mara's cold hand in the ER hours after she slipped away. There had been unanswered things then, too. Stray receipts in her purse he didn't recognize. A few afternoons when she said she was volunteering somewhere she never described. But he had been too consumed by grief to investigate. Now he wondered if he had misunderstood something important. Aldrich finally stepped closer, his expensive shoes silent against the marble. He appeared conflicted, almost nervous, an unusual sight for a man known publicly for his unshakable composure. Rowan felt anger simmer inside him, yet beneath it was another emotion, fear. What if this portrait was proof of something he was never meant to know? The sunlight streaming in from tall windows cast long shadows between them, bathing the estate in a warm glow that contrasted the cold shock Rowan felt internally. Even the scent of polished oak and fresh lilies couldn't calm the storm rising inside him. He thought about all the nights Nessa asked about her mother. Would she ever have imagined that a stranger, a billionaire, kept her picture displayed like a treasure? Despite the weight in his chest, Rowan forced himself to breathe, forced himself to stay grounded. Life had taught him that panicking never solved anything. He had faced poverty, grief, and loneliness. He could face this too. He let his eyes travel over the portrait again, noticing the details, the jewelry Mara wore, the sophisticated hairstyle, the confident gaze. It felt like another version of her, one she never showed him, or one she never got the chance to share. As Rowan's breathing steadied, Aldrich finally spoke. Not with arrogance, but with humility that didn't seem to fit his reputation. And the truth he revealed broke the silence like a stone through glass. He explained that years before Rowan met Mara, she had been part of a non-profit mentorship program founded by Aldrich's late mother. Mara had volunteered secretly, offering emotional support and tutoring to teens from difficult homes. During that time, Aldrich had been a troubled young man drowning under the pressure of inheriting a fortune, losing his mother, and being forced into an adult world long before he was ready. Mara had been the first person who ever treated him like a human being instead of a name, a status, or a problem. She had encouraged him when he felt incapable, reminded him of kindness when he felt surrounded by greed, and told him he could build something meaningful from his privilege. She became the reason he eventually created scholarships, shelters, and programs that uplifted thousands of families today. She had been his turning point, his wake-up call, his first example of genuine goodness. He revealed that he commissioned the portrait after her death, not out of romance or hidden betrayal, but out of gratitude for someone who changed his life. He said he kept it in his private wing as a reminder of the person who guided him toward becoming the man he hoped to be. And when he learned that she had left behind a husband and a little girl struggling to stay afloat, he vowed to support them quietly, respectfully, without ever crossing the boundary of their grief. Rowan felt his anger dissolve into quiet disbelief. He had spent years feeling utterly alone in his pain, never knowing that someone else carried part of Mara's light in their memory. The realization moved him deeply. For the first time in years, he felt something shift, an invisible weight lifting. The world, which had felt harsh and unforgiving since Mara's passing, suddenly felt softer. Aldrich then explained why he had finally reached out. He had created a foundation scholarship named after Mara, one designed specifically for children of single parents who had lost a spouse. He wanted Nessa to be the first beneficiary, not out of pity, but as a tribute to the woman who changed both their lives. The moment hit Rowan harder than he expected. Warm sunlight drifted across the room, illuminating the portrait, and Rowan felt the overwhelming sense that Mara was still watching over them in her own way. His knees nearly buckled with emotion. For years he had wondered how to give Nessa the life Mara dreamed of. And now that dream was unfolding right before him through someone his wife once helped without ever speaking about it. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Soft Voices. Your support helps us continue spreading hope through stories. Before the ending, please comment "Hope Lives" to let us know you're here with us. Rowan walked out of the mansion later that day with a renewed sense of purpose, sunlight warming his face as if blessing his next chapter. He carried no bitterness, only gratitude. The world, he realized, was much kinder than it sometimes appeared, and Mara's kindness had echoed farther than he ever imagined. He looked down at his daughter, who clutched his hand with pure innocence, and felt certain that her future was brighter than ever. And somewhere in the quiet corners of the Harrington estate, a portrait of Mara Hale continued to glow softly in the afternoon light. A timeless reminder that even the smallest acts of kindness can change lives long after we're gone.